If you need more context, please look at the previous parts.
It's so backwards, but again, this is this is the world we live in. This is crazy, man. I never in my life would think I would see this. Never, never, never.
Manning Johnson was an American Negro who loved his country. And he loved it enough that he saw beyond Uncle Tom. A communist of stature within the international conspiracy, Manning Johnson had the strength to renounce communism when he discovered for certain that its purpose was to use the Negro as a device to help commit all Americans of all colors to a slavery far worse than anything the pre-emancipation American Negro had ever experienced. We preserve the speech on this record for posterity, and we present it with malice toward none.
And before we get to that, I just want to say Reconstruction was not necessarily sunshine and rainbows for black people. Some might say it was even worse because though they weren't slaves physically, they were slaves by any other measurement of society and worth and culture and government. To where a lot of people just looked the other way when there were massive atrocities, even against black kids. The bombing of the church, etc. Like, just. So I don't think that's what they're talking about, but with Reconstruction, yes, some people might say there was a different form of slavery. It wasn't just physical now, it was everything else besides that, kind of basically. We have a long way to go, but I think most people would agree things have gone better. But some things seem to be trying to roll back.
But rather with the belief that had its wisdom and sheer logic reached enough Americans at the time the speech was made, the communists never could have succeeded in provoking the violence and insurrection we have unhappily witnessed. Now,
I think he's talking about the what was it called? I should know this. The race riots in the 90s, but I don't think so. Based on its timing, I have to be honest. I'm a little bit not 100%, but pray for I'm healed and made whole in Jesus Christ's name, Amen. So if I might be getting some things wrong, blame that. It's not an excuse for an explanation. That's what Joe Biden said. But no, just in general, I'm generally speaking fine. But I'm a little bit stuffy. But again, I'm good.
Manning Johnson.
Don't spread the rumor throughout the world that Negroes are kept in ignorance because of prejudiced white people and all of that propaganda. Because that type of propaganda is the brainchild of the communists. And they want to use the Negro to gain foothold in those parts of the world where the darker races exist. I don't give a tinker's damn about a Negro. There are certain people who are using the Negro in order to establish that power in Washington. And the Negro is just merely a pawn in a game that's bigger than he is.
I mean, listen, I guess you can say both sides have used this for a long time, but I don't see the connection here.
Black people were always ripe for use by the communists because many of us do come from situations of poverty.
I'm going to be praying for you. I'm going to be coming back to see you. And we are going to be demanding when we go to Washington that something be done and done immediately.
You remember when I said in the beginning of this video that Uncle Tom 2 is going to really expose some unsettling truths?
Yeah, they think MLK was wrong. Yeah, I was like, um, oh, well, they have Jesse Lee Peterson with their mockumentary. That's the best couple I can say about it. Okay, let's just talk about MLK a little bit. Okay, let's talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., to be precise. He wasn't a perfect man, but powerful. He had some ideas some say were communist, others say he was ahead of his time, others say he was a product of his time because of what he said about gay people. But unlike Charlie Kirk, I don't think Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Was a half bag. Okay? Yeah, again, they have Jesse Lee Peterson on their mockumentary. So you kind of racist much? Tough pill to swallow here, folks. Buckle your seatbelts.
Watch the movie. But let me just stop really quick because
More.
Harold Swain talking about how black people have always been ripe for the communist because a lot of black people have come from poverty. In communism, the tactic that they use is to create a system of the haves and the haves not. So remember, communism is essentially a class war. It's the capitalists versus the socialists. It's the do-it-yourselfers versus the people that say they can't do it themselves. And
No, I'm sorry. That's respectfully, guys. It's a childish thinking of the two sides. If you actually want to be accurate, it's the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat, the ones that have everything and basically hoard everything to themselves, and those who are at the boot of the bourgeoisie, the proletariat, the workers who do not have what they need to survive, basically. But the problem with socialism is that though it gets the critique right, their solutions are dog trash if done in the government sense. If it's done in the government sense, worldwide, nationwide sense, it kind of becomes communism because socialism is fairness, ultimately, or equality to a point where it's a little bit like, the workers own the means of production. Now, if you want to do that, you can have your own type of commune or co-op, but to do that governmentally is when we kind of usually get communism and when we get dictatorship, because some people are just better than others and so, in some cases, should earn more. But for socialists and communists, especially communists, by force, the communists, not necessarily the socialists, but at least the communists by force, they say no. Equal of opportunity and of outcome, which is wrong. See, I still kind of agree with Gothix. Communism's wrong, socialism to an extent is wrong. It's just how she's doing it respectfully is a black and white childish thinking that doesn't actually get the point across, the actual point across, which is why, well, this mockumentary thinks MLK is bad. Wow, really? Wow.
And if you
really?
know that you have a big chunk of the population that has already come from poverty, all you have to do is condition them to believe that they can't do it, they can't figure it out on their own, and then that presents an opportunity for you to come in and be the savior, okay?
That is somewhat true. I think especially in communism, Stalin kind of did that. Create the problem, or in this case, sustain the problem so you'll always have a solution, which is the government. Let Big Brother handle all your problems. You'll have nothing and be happy. Even though there's more context to that quote there. I heard he was against what they were saying, but you won't hear that from conservatives, obviously. But I would say fascists in this way, or at least Christian nationalists, and especially not a lot of parts of the GOP, the Trump side, are creating the problem so they create the solution. Drug prices are cut? Well, since that was buying, we're reversing that. Well, now we're cutting them now, so we solved the problem. Even though the problem was already solved, but you'll be out of the job with peace. So, if actually some things were actually done on both sides, generally speaking, it seems like, in a sense way, Congress, or to an extent, most politicians who are bought and paid for by companies want to sustain the problem, so they'll always have the solution to have power. That's basically on both sides, basically. Lobbyists, things of that nature. Because when it comes to solve a problem, a big one, like immigration or abortion or whatever, then you can't dangle it in the next election because it's kind of been solved. Oh no, out of the job with peace. Well, can't have that, so. Or they create a problem, a mischief, not real at all problem, to have a solution that nobody needed. Why are there so many bills against child grooming if we already have them in law? Because they're not against child grooming, they're against trans people existing. There was literally, a few days ago, the GOP of Texas banned anime or parts of it. Again, I already gave you the card to get more details there. Their thing is to protect children, but we already have those things in the books. So they're trying to create a mischief problem. Like there's somehow a problem that we need a solution for, because we already have the solution, but they don't want to do anything with it because they'll be out of the job with that. So, on both sides, I'm just saying.
So again, if we go back in history, right after the end of slavery, black people were thriving. They had their own businesses. They were doing a lot of amazing things. How did we get from there to the point we're at right now?
It's a lot. Regarding with Reconstruction, again, like I said, we were basically slaves besides being physical. But there were, in some cases, in the South area, as heard the Tulsa Race Massacre and Black Wall Street, we were successful. Everything was basically good until white people didn't like that. And so there was poverty, and of course you have the drug war and things of that nature, and a lot of other stuff, complicated and somewhat simple stuff in between. That's kind of history for you. But again, the main problem here, at least for Gothix, in this video, I don't know if she's changed, pray for she has, in Jesus Christ's name, amen, but at least in this one, respectfully, she's trying to do it in a childish-like way, like, how we get from here to here? Well, it's because of this, or MLK, or leftism, or whatever. It's like, not really, maybe leftism, but not Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Like, no, you're way off field.
Now it's because of victimization. It's your conditioning people.
Kinda, but that's not the whole picture.
And that is what the purpose of Black Lives Matter was. It was to help.
I would say the organization, possibly, but definitely not the movement. The movement had good roots. It had good beginnings, but where are they now? Who knows? But definitely the organization. You can throw that away. Big Lone Tree Mansion. I don't think so.
Get the engine starting again, because a lot of black people in America are fine. They can do it, no problems. I don't need nothing. I'm fine. Keep that mentality going. So let's continue.
About these conditions.
We can
condition of systemic racism, things of that nature. But that's communist, guys. Honestly, who's conditioning who? Who's trying to sustain a problem here, folks? Why is it a problem that MLK is trying to put a stop to something that might be happening? Why? Why is this mockumentary targeting MLK, of all people? Why him? Why not Malcolm X? They might target him later on. it's just interesting that they're kind of projecting if you really think about it,
that there's
folks.
someone out there that's
Interesting.
responsible for our condition.
I am the mother with six children.
I mean, if that's the case, then that's the case, which it was the case. I don't think Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or people of the civil rights movement were like, it's not our faults at all in a sense, or we don't have any responsibility of anything. It's always the government. Well, kinda, yeah, yeah, it kinda was. It kinda was. Or there's some that were trying to just blame the system and not do anything with their responsibility. Sure, but like that was not the main civil rights movement. Like, who's propagandizing who here exactly?
Plantation, an old piece of house, and my husband work on the plantation. He don't make, but man, give him just $8 a day. And I don't have a job, and it's hard for him to make a job with $8 a day and nothing else to go up against. I got one son stopped school because I didn't have the money to buy him fish and clothing he needed to wear, and he just dropped out of school. And part of the time, I don't even know where I'm gonna get the next meal for my children.
Many Negroes, by the thousands and millions, have been left bootless as a result of all of these years of oppression and as a result of a society that deliberately made his color a stigma and something worthless and degrading.
That's just a fact. Everybody knows when black people have the right to vote, it was basically candies that needed to be like, hey, how many things are in this? I think how many pickles are in a pickle jar, or how many gumdrops are in this before you can vote, or whatever. It was for suppression, which some might argue we still have today. I don't know about that. I don't think so.
It's taking the economic Marxism of Karl Marx and applying it to race relations in a way that whites are the oppressors and minorities, non-whites, they are the oppressed.
Yes, ma'am.
But respectfully, no, man, because that was just like, it wasn't they were trying to make something up. That was true. The government back then, most of them were racist, or at least were kind of like, yeah, I don't like that killing black people, but they gotta be in their place. Government, yeah, Jim Crow, yes, it was oppressed and oppressor. Yes, personal responsibility, but like, I think, listen, you can take this for Malcolm X, but Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., why target him? What did he do? What did he do to you? Like, what? I don't... What? Huh? How's that work? Explain.
Recognize who our major enemy is. The major enemy is not your brother, flesh of your flesh and blood of your blood. The major enemy is the hunky and his institutions of racism. That's the major enemy.
I mean, yeah, that's racist there, but that's not I be honest, that looks more like Black Panthers than Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s civil rights movement. They were quite clear. They're not against any white people. They're against the system that's obviously oppressing them, because it was obviously oppressing them. Are you mixing the two here, mockumentary? But I'm trying to say mockumentary, but at this point, I don't know. Like, well, what's your narrative? What's your agenda here?
Institutions are the enemy. The white supremacy is the enemy. Sounds very...
I mean, because it was. You can argue, yeah, it was back then, but not now. I mean, yeah, even most conservatives whose argument has that, I'm like, yeah, but doesn't mean we can't ignore some of the things that are still here today and the effects of it from back then. But I would agree. Obviously, there was systemic racism. Obviously, I don't know. I think there was a comment on one of my previous parts that were like, this isn't all of Black conservatism, and I agree, it's not, but it seems to be a loud minority. If I'm correct, Gothix has, I don't think millions of subscribers, but I think she did get millions of views for one of her videos. Why she left the left, it was because Disney had a pride flag or whatever. I don't know. The point is, I think they're conflating, and I think that's the main problem with this mockumentary. Ugh. Hey, real quick, if you want to dedicate your life to Christ, aka get saved, or if you're a backslider and want to rededicate your life to Christ, or if you want the baptism of the Holy Spirit with the evidence of speaking with tongues, those prayers are in the description down below.